Well, I'd like to seriously welcome you to our annual reading of the Creative Writing Department. It's wonderful to have you here. So our first reader is going to be the wonderful poet Rosanna Warren, who is just completed a new edition, her edition of the poems of Montale, which will be out soon, I think? Is out. And Max Jakob is creeping up on us. She's been working on that many years, and it's going to soon be with us, I know. So, Rosanna Warren.
Thanks, Leslie. And I always love this reading. It has a special esprit de corps. I'll read 3 poems, fairly short. Glaucoma. Garnet flashes in the wild turkey's wattle as late sun singes the far edge of the meadow. Lacework bird calls unravel little by little into a frayed cat's cradle for catching shadow. Ceremonial as bishops in their jerking strut, the turkeys process into the transept of white pines up the slope where the millefeuille shale lies shut in an ancient book, all scribbled between the lines. The yellow fungus arrays its party dress over petticoat and flounces. It dreams of rot. The stream, silver-tongued, has more to discuss as day grows tired and changes the subject, but only in highlights now and undertone. The black bear on our walk gave me a hard look, then lolloped up the hill this afternoon, melting into the grove of beeches across the brook. We're all melting. This house is not our own. Daily, my vision fails. What will it be, no longer to stare at bronze beech leaves strewn on the loamy floor, at the stream's currency, not to see the pearled, shadowless dawn unspool the field? At the edge of the pond, a single heron stood, a hieroglyph. I don't know what he spelled. And Diana's last look, just days before she died, enlarged by disease and sleeplessness, her eyes searched mine as if across a no man's land, and as if by gazing she could memorize my face. I gazed back, wordless, stroking her hand. Evening has settled now in the apple boughs. The turkeys have gone. A half moon chalks the sky. The stream keeps lisping the only story it knows, and a loosened cobweb veils the moon's eye. At Villeneuve-les-Maguelones, this is a little wild beach in the south of France. At Villeneuve-les-Maguelones, on this strung-out strand where once the Saracens raided and the bishop defended, now only surf whirs in, tumble, soothe, and seethe of waves at a slow boil. We lie motionless and cracked as driftwood. Middle age has tossed us here. Salt sears each wave. Sand crusts your eyebrows and the rim of each ear, and the sun licks hunchbacked breakers with a tongue of fire. Hypnosis of foam, the surf sounds endless. Nothing is endless. The Cathedral of Maguelone hulks a battered shell on a wind-roughed island. Seagulls perch on the rafters in the shadow of cypress. And if we too, sprawled below on the sand, are burned and offered, it is to no God we will name, and the sea that lulls us is spelling its own end. Yet we are given, for now day is suspended, a kiss is a salt mirage in smitten air. The brush of your hand on my hip a tremor of sunburn. I could see you, but instead I turn my head, glance up, and the whole sky hurtles down, and where we were, we aren't. Just a long horizontal seizure of aquamarine, tide spittle, the shuddering shore. I'm going to conclude with something very different. I think you probably all know that rare earths are those minerals mined in parts of Asia, parts of Africa, some of them extremely hard to find, and without which our cell phones and our whole electronic economy and digital communications would not work. Late empire, antimony, beryllium, cobalt. See me leaving my climate-controlled, gatehouse-guarded condo complex while my mini video surveillance system installed in the Puce living room drapes records every gesture the babysitter makes, lest she neglect to wash her hands, or lest she drivel on the phone with her friends. These people do have friends. Or place the spoon absent-mindedly in precious baby's mouth, while precious baby's parents, we, are out savoring Chateauneuf-du-Pape and Tome de Savoie, our appreciation of which is evidence of our education, some babies being precious and others manifestly less so, likely to grow up, if they grow up, into those little brown people whose destiny it is to kneel and buff the calluses from my feet. Useful, these people, admittedly, but not in the category of precious. Little brown people being, on the whole, too numerous. More and more too numerous, rumors from the provinces, for this planet. And where do they get off breeding like that, cutting down trees, burning them up, and clogging the air over my patio and rock garden? It's foreign clogged air. Suffering should stay where it belongs, on the front page of the newspaper, which nobody reads anymore, and for good reason. And if people have the bad judgment to get born in the middle of a drought or a flood on some other continent, so be it. I can hardly be held responsible. Thank God we have border police, imperfect but still on the whole, performing their duties, while our mercenaries protect the supply lines from discordant elements, more little brown people. So precious minerals, rare earths, wines, and cheeses keep flowing on schedule to those who know how to appreciate them. Brown people still laboring in mines extracting tungsten, platinum, magnesium, and niobium, which keep our chips chipping, our cables cabling, and our standard of living up to our standards. Rumors from the provinces not withstanding. Thank you.
Well, for all of Robert Pinsky's achievements, a poet laureate, favorite poem project, the intrinsic beauty of the poems themselves, I know he would want me most to mention the thing he's much too shy to mention himself, which is that this Friday night at the Charles Hotel, he's going to be doing jazz poems at 7:30 at the Charles Hotel. He never would mention it himself. And now for your pleasure, Robert Pinsky.
Was that irony? Yes. I am going to be at the Charles Hotel with the wonderful pianist Lawrence Hobgood Friday night. In fact, the first poem I'm going to read is one that Lawrence and I do together on the new CD, Poem Jazz, and the poem has the distinction, it's the only poem I ever wrote that you can get as a single on iTunes. you search for Creole Pinsky or Creole Hobgood, you will see this poem. I'll read it and one other. Creole. I'm tired of the gods. I'm pious about the ancestors, afloat in the wake widening behind me in time, the restive devisers. My father had one job from high school till he got fired at 30. The year was 1947, and his boss, planning to run for mayor, wanted to hire an Italian veteran. As he explained, putting it in plain English, I was 7 years old, my sister was 2. The barbarian tribes in the woods were so savage, the empire had to conquer them to protect and clear its perimeter. So into the woods, Rome sent out missions of civilizing governors and invaders to establish schools, courts, garrisons, soldiers, clerks, officials, citizens with their household slaves. Years or decades or entire lives were spent out in those hinterlands, which might be good places to retire on a government pension, especially if in those work years you had acquired a native wife. Often I get these things wrong, or at best mixed up, but I do feel piety toward those persistent mixed families in Gaul, Britain, Thrace. When I die, may I take my place in the wedge widening and churning in the mortal ocean of years of souls. As I get it, the Roman colonizing and mixing, the intricate imperial processes of enslaving and freeing involved not just the inevitable fucking in all senses of the word, but also marriages and births, as developers, barbers, scribes, and thugs mingled and coupled with the native people and peoples. Begetting and trading, they needed to swap, blend, and improvise languages. Couples especially needed to invent French, Spanish, German. And I confess, Roman, barbarian, I find that Creole work more glorious than God. The way it happened, the school sent around a notice. Anybody interested in becoming an apprentice optician, raise your hand. It was the Great Depression. Anything about a job sounded good to Milford Pinsky, who told me he thought it meant a kind of dentistry. Anyway, he was bored sitting in study hall, so he raised his hand, and he got the job, as was his destiny, full-time, once he graduated. Joe Chavone was the veteran who took the job, not a bad guy. Dr. Weinberg did get elected mayor. Joe worked for him for years. At the bank, an Episcopalian named John Smock, whose family owned a piece of the bank, had played sports with Milford and gave him a small loan with no collateral, so he opened his own shop, grinding lenses and selling glasses. As his mother-in-law said, almost a professional. Optician comes from a Greek word that has to do with seeing. Banker comes from an Italian word for a bench, where people sat, I imagine, and made loans or change. Pinsky, like Tex or Brooklyn, is a name nobody would have if they were still in that same place. Those names all signify someone who's been away from home a while. Schiavone means a Slav or slave. Milford is a variation on the names of poets, Milton, Herbert, Sidney, that certain immigrants used to give to their offspring. Creole comes from a word meaning to breed or create in a place. Other poem, an older poem, shorter, on a similar theme of ethnicity and mixing and the idea that everything is Creole. Everybody is, all culture is a mix. Window. It's a parody of autobiography. You know, my Polish miner, mom and dad, my Pakistani grandmother, my French dad. It's a parody, it's a joke and all that. Window. Our building floated heavily through the cold. On shifts of steam, the raging coal-fed furnace forced from the boiler's hull. In showers of spark, the trolleys flashed, careening under our cornice. My mother, Mary Beamish, who came from Cork, held me up to see the snowfall out the window. Windhold, she sometimes said, as if in Irish it held wind out, or showed us that wind was old. Windhole in Anglo-Saxon, faces like brick, they worshipped Easter's rabbit and mistletoe that was Thor's jism, where thunder struck the oak. We took their language in our mouth and chewed. Some of the consonants drove us nearly crazy because we were Chinese. Or was that just the food my father brought from our restaurant downstairs in the Fells? By the Falls, the old ghetto, or New Jersey, Little Havana, or Little Russia, I forget, because the baby wasn't me, the way these words are not. Whoever she was teaching to talk, snow, she said, snow. And you opened your small brown fist and closed it and opened again to hold the reflection of torches and faces inside the window glass and through it. A cold black sheen of shapes and fires shaking, kitchen lights, flakes that crisscrossed other lights in lush diagonals. The snow-charmed traffic surging and pausing, red, green, white, the motion of motes and torches that at her word you reached out for, where you were. It was you, that bright confusion.
Well, without irony, Robert, we can hear the music without the piano. So. Sigrid Nunez, I believe her last book was the terrific book on Susan Sontag, Siempre Susan. This is her first year with our program. I'm delighted to say we're going to welcome her back for another next year, and now you're going to hear why. Sigrid Nunez.
I think of these 3 pages I'm going to read as a kind of preface to a work in progress. I like the way Rousseau declares in the first sentence of his autobiography that he is about to do something that has never been done before and that will never be done again. The problem with any first sentence, says Joan Didion, is that you're stuck with it. Everything else is going to flow out of that sentence, and by the time you've laid down the first 2 sentences, your options are all gone. Before beginning, too many options. Then, in the next breath, none. When you're having trouble sleeping, goes an old cure for insomnia, start telling yourself the story of your life. For some reason, writer's block has always felt to me like a kind of insomnia. I like that Norman Mailer said, there's a touch of writer's block in a writer's work every day. I don't remember who said, insomnia is the inability to forget. When you're having trouble writing, get up, go out, take a walk in the street. You will discover that certain streets exist precisely for this purpose. Once I happened to see a man, homeless by the look of him, digging through the trash. He pulled out a couple of sheets of newspaper, examined them, threw them back. Fishing deeper, he hauled up a magazine, squinted at the cover, threw it back. As he stormed off, I heard him say, "There ain't nothing to read in these fucking cans anymore." Rousseau goes on to say that he has embellished the story of his life only to fill a void when his memory failed. But of course, he never gives you the heads up. Never write, "I don't remember," editor says. It undermines your authority. But write as if you remember everything, and reader will smell a rat. I like the student in my fiction writing class who said, I've read all your novels, and there's one thing I want to ask. Do you make some of that stuff up? The librarian who, on her blog, recommended a novel of mine as a good one to read when you don't happen to have a better one. I like that Allen Ginsberg told a teenager who wanted to know what he should write about, that he should write about his love for his friends. Every story worth telling is a love story, said someone I used to love very much. I once made the mistake of writing about a love too soon after it was over, forgetting Chekhov's advice that you should sit down to write only when you feel as cold as ice. How can a man who knows nothing about love be a great novelist? A character in a novel by J.M. Coetzee says about a character named J.M. Coetzee. I like that Virginia Woolf said, "Everything I read these days, including my own work, seems to me too long." That Borges thought novels, unlike short stories, were not essential. But not that Jeanette Winterson said, "I think long books are rude." Not that Céline said, "Novels are something like lace, an art that went out with the convent." More and more, I like the idea of a pen name. Once at a dinner party, I was introduced to an elderly woman who asked, "And what name do you write under?" Sugared nouns was the computer's suggestion after spell checking my name. Some writers use pen names so that they can be more truthful, others so that they can tell more lies. I like how Lily Tomlin used to introduce one part of her act. The following skit is about my parents. I have changed their names to protect their identities. I like the sliver of ice in the heart that Graham Greene thought every reader must have. I have it. Thank God I have it. And the grain of stupidity Flannery O'Connor said the writer of fiction could not do without. I have that too. I like that Alan Bennett said, "Novels aren't necessarily written as the crow flies." And another thing he said, "For a writer, nothing is ever quite as bad as it is for other people, because, however dreadful, it may be of use." Oncologist says, "That doesn't sound like any writer I know." I like John Banville's paraphrase of Bennett, "Writers don't suffer as much as other people." There is always a sheet of paper, there is always a pen, there is always a way out, wrote H.R. Mencken, who nevertheless hoped that his life would not last too long. I like knowing that at the end of his life, Charles Darwin said he wished that he had read more poetry, and Günter Grass's description of writers as professional rememberers. I can tell the story of my life in just 4 words: good times, bad times. And I do remember, just not as the crow flies.
And Thomas Mann said, "A writer is someone for whom writing is more difficult than someone else." We've always been very proud in our program and at these readings to invite alumni to come and speak on these evenings. And tonight, unusually, we're having 2 of them. And to introduce the first, I'm going to ask the head of the playwriting program, Kate Snodgrass, to make that introduction.
Just so you know, we're going to be reading in front of you. Okay. Well, thank you so much. It's my very great pleasure to introduce one of our playwriting alums, Molly Smith Metzler. She's exactly the kind of writer that we want to encourage in our playwriting program. She's a theater scholar, and she's a professional playwright, all rolled into one. When she was with us in 2002, we produced a play of hers called Training Wisteria, and we entered it in the Kennedy Center American College Theater Festival. It then won the National Playwriting Award, and we performed the play at the Kennedy Center, where it also won the David Mark Cohen Award, which is open to undergraduates, graduates, and faculty at universities all across the nation, and also the Mark Twain Comedy Award. The play also went on to the Cherry Lane Theater in New York. Her play Carve was performed at the Tristan Bates Theater in London. Her play Close Up Space opened last December at the Manhattan Theater Club in New York, starring David Hyde Pierce of Frasier fame and Rosie Perez. And the play is currently a finalist for the Susan Smith Blackburn Award over in Cambridge. Most recently, her play LMNOP opened at the Humana Festival of New American Plays at the Actors Theater of Louisville, and it's now currently playing at the South Coast Repertory Theater in LA. Critics called it, close your ears, Molly, she doesn't read reviews. Critics called it an amusing morality tale about the compromising consequences of money's seductive power, full of riotous moments. It's slated to come to New York sometime this next year, so be on the watch for it. Molly, thank you.
Thanks, Kate. Tonight we're going to read an early scene from my play LMNOP that Kate was just quoting the reviews from. This play is about two sisters. The younger sister, Simone, is going to be played by my new friend, Elise Manning, a Boston actress. And Simone has recently become the personal assistant to an extremely wealthy trophy wife, who's going to be played by the wonderful Kate Snodgrass. I'm going to play the older sister, Devin, who is from blue-collar Buffalo and has come to visit her younger sister for the weekend in this ludicrous guest house in Martha's Vineyard. It's an early scene, and I've just arrived, and I'm a little dubious about this world.
Oh, look, Deb, she got you a black dog sweatshirt. Oh, that's gonna look so cute on you. Now, smile and give me like a thumbs up so I can text her a, thank you so much, I love it pic from my berry.
Your berry?
Yeah, wait, you know what, let's do a video instead. Look over here and say, thanks, Michaela, and wave.
Absolutely not.
Say, thanks, Michaela, your home is lovely. Thanks for letting me stay, and for my ferry ticket.
Wait, what? She bought my ferry ticket?
Oh no, it's not like that. I mean, she has endless ferry passes and frequent flyer miles.
Simone, she paid for my flight, too? You said you had miles.
Yeah, but she has like 200 billion thousand miles. Okay, so I'm filming. Go. Thanks, Michaela.
Well, gee, hi, and thanks, Michaela, for paying for all of my transportation this weekend, which was not humiliating at all. Also, a special thanks for the ginormous black dog sweatshirt. A black lab actually bit me in the face in the 5th grade, so I can't tell you how excited I am to be wearing his doppelganger here on my chest. P.S. Get a job.
Yay! I'll just send it without sound. That'll make her day. She's been a little depressed. Labor Day itself, time passing, kids going back to school. It's been a tough year for Michaela.
Oh no, really? This rich bitch has problems?
Disco, play
Everybody Hurts by R.E.M.
The voice-activated iTunes plays surround sound.
Devin, I think you should really try to have more perspective about people.
Should I?
Yeah. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Disco stop that I've learned this year with this job, that we should all try to have more empathy for each other, because there's more to people than meets the eye. That's all I'm going to say.
No, keep going, Obi-Wan. Why should I have empathy for this
Never
lady?
mind. I didn't mean to get into this.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
Her husband's a douche, is that it?
No,
Then what?
nothing.
How's he a douche?
He's not.
What's he that's douchey?
Devin, seriously. Never mind. I can't talk about this with you, okay? I signed a confidentiality agreement when I took this job.
And I showed you how to use a tampon, Simone. I showed.
leaving for the airport, Michaela was in the kitchen and had her compact out to, pluck a super quick eyebrow hair with a tweezer, light work hair. You know how you do when nobody's looking?
Yeah.
And he just made a comment. He said something like, "Don't forget the one on your chin." And I think there's been other stuff like that, like on a much larger scale.
And what does she say when he says stuff like that?
Nothing. Or like she'll say thank you. Like it was nice of him to bring the chin pube to her attention. That's the thing about her. She just gives and gives. She's been so good to me this year.
Yeah, you keep saying that she's been so good to you this year. What does that mean exactly?
I don't know. She's generous and nice. We're sort of friends.
You're sort of her employee, Simone.
See? This is why I don't tell you things, Devin. God! Because you could just become this interrogating freak and get those crazy eyes and everything's suspicious.
Well, I think it is suspicious that Jose calls her the Wicked Witch and you can't seem to give me one real, non-vague
She
example.
taught me how to play tennis. She read my 590-page novel. She's been really cool about me dating Ethan. How are those?
Why wouldn't she be cool with you dating whoever you want to date?
I don't know. He's her husband's friend. It could be weird if she were less awesome. She also read my 590-page novel. Devin, in case you didn't hear me, just say that.
I've read your novel, Simone. I just haven't had a chance to tell you
Oh,
that I
yeah,
did.
what's the title?
Well, whatever. What does your new BFF pay you? Because that's the test of true friendship.
That is a very impolite
Oh, look at
question.
you. Oh, that's a very impolite question. Girl, you are from Buffalo. I've seen you tailgating with a Boone's Fruit Punch rocking your Puppy Bill starter jacket.
Okay, she pays me generously.
I want to figure. 20? 25? 30? You can't make more than 30.
Okay, Devin, there's a hostel in Oak Bluffs, and I'll do it. I'll drop you there.
Do it, bitch. I love hostels. 40? 45? 50? You do not make 50 fucking K to wait on a rich lady with no kids and no job. Are you kidding me? 51. 52.
I make $104,000 a year plus benefits, clothing allowance, room board, and she paid off my student loans.
Simone, what? Why in God's name would anyone pay off your student loans? I'm not paying off my MSW until 2065.
Maybe that's what I'm worth.
That's your worth? According to who?
I'll tell you whom. My placement service. I have a degree, bilingual, I know HTML, Outlook, and QuickBook. I type 100 words a minute with 90% accuracy. I'm attractive. And I
You're
think
attracted? Did you just say that?
So it's a fact that when you're paid to be someone's, public representative, like an executive assistant, being attractive ups your base salary.
Like being a filthy prostitute.
Okay, I'm done. This is done. I knew.
You're 27,
I should have invited
Simone.
you out here.
27. You're supposed to be hitchhiking and seeing the world and having fun and sleeping with people named Skip. Not making money because you're attractive.
I'm 29, Devin.
Well, whatever. Why can't you even take a day off? All year you were like, this summer we're doing a sisters camping trip in the Berkshires. All year you put me off until
Yes,
finally
because I don't have any vacation days left, Devin, because I used my entire allotment of vacation time to move you from New York to San Francisco, only to turn around 3 months later and fly out there to move you back.
For which I have to thank you about 300 times. So it's not like you gave me a kidney, Simone. You helped me move. I moved you to Boston. Big whoop.
Oh, you helped me move a bed to Boston, Devin, and you abandoned me halfway up the stairs because you had selfish
That is
tickets.
revisionist history.
Look,
It's revisionist
I have
history.
empathy and perspective about everything you've been through, okay? I'm sorry that you screwed the pooch with California. I'm sorry that you quit your entire life to get engaged to some dude you didn't know. But that doesn't mean you get to show up here with your crazy eyes and poop all over my great game, especially when I have been so there for you this year.
There for me? I'm back at Mom's house. I'm basically in a van down by the river here, and you haven't seen me in 6 months. Don't you give a shit about what's going on with
Of
me?
course I do, Devin. Of course I do. That's why I invited you out here for a really fun B-Day weekend.
Well, my fucking B-Day was 3 months ago, and you didn't bother to show, and you look like a retarded Easter egg in that
Oh,
outfit.
well, excuse me for wanting to share my beachfront success with your basement-dwelling Fraggle
I
Rock ass.
cannot believe you let some dumb bitch get her
God,
black
don't
hair
tell us
story
everything
and pay for
else.
me to come here.
Disgusting.
There's
There's actually
plans that do that to you.
Coming
Monkey
here.
A beautiful woman is coming across the glass doors. She is strikingly beautiful and waving.
Oh my God, it's Michaela. Devin, if you're not polite to Michaela.
Why is she
I will
smiling?
never
Did she
forgive
hear
you.
it
It's soundproof glass! Do not embarrass me, Devin.
I thought you said she was
I
gone.
mean it. I will kill you. Do not embarrass me, Devin. Michaela, what a surprise! Yay! I love it. Of course. I mean, are you okay? Why are you all bed?
I ran here
What do you mean you ran here?
from
Where?
West Tisbury.
What? That's like 6 miles from here, Michaela. Why did you do that?
Yes. Why did I do that?
Michaela, where's Peter? Should I give him a call? Michaela, why aren't you on the jet to New York?
Something happened, Simone. Something happened. Why are these white?
Okay, let's just slow down.
I said
Okay,
blue,
what's white?
blue hydrangea. Labor Day's over. I said to the florist on the phone, I said, no white. If you give me white, if you fucking give me white. Did she listen, Simone?
No.
I obviously
let's just
should have
take
done the flowers
a deep
myself.
breath.
For some asinine reason, I thought it was more important to accompany my husband back to New York because for some asinine reason, I actually thought we, and
He just what? What happened?
why don't I have any shoes on? I'm losing my mind now.
Your shoes are
My
by the door. You
makeup's
took
a
them
mess
off
and I
when
don't
you
have
came in.
my makeup bag and my Laura Mercier primer.
Michaela, why were you in West Tisbury instead of on the jet with Peter?
Because Phil would not take the jet until the fog cleared. And Peter got all Peter about it and said he would therefore drive himself back to the city in his stupid Jaguar. So we left the airport and headed to the ferry station. But then we passed the ice cream smuggler. And Peter said he wanted a sugar cone. So we pulled over and he went in. And then when he came out, he was empty-handed. And so I said, what happened, honey? Did you lose interest in ice cream? And he said, there were too many kids in there. And I said, well, okay, I'll go in and get one for you. What do you want? And he said, what I want is for you to get the fuck out of my car. And he pulled over in the middle of traffic and pushed me out and slammed my car door shut and peeled out and left me standing there.
God,
And all the cars were whizzing past me, and this Volkswagen stopped to see if I needed help like it was some fucking homeless woman. It was so humiliating. I just turned around and started running. I didn't even know where I was running, and then I got your video, and I couldn't tell what the video was saying about the sound. And there you were waving at me, and I suddenly remembered you were on the island. I don't know what else to do. I just came here.
No, you did the right thing.
I know, I gave you the day off.
Oh,
I'm
no,
so sorry.
Don't worry about it, Michaela. We'll figure this whole thing out, okay? I mean, I'm sure it's all just some sort of mistake.
Get the fuck out of my car. How was that a mistake? Thank you.
The playwriting program is leaving the creative writing program. This is our last year together. Kate really began the playwriting program with Derek, but then became the creative writing program herself. It's no accident that people like Molly have come through that program. She is a superb mentor, playwright herself. I know as well as anybody what it means to have her involved in production of one's play. She's not going far. She's going to be part of the English department. We're still cousins in a sense. But she has become, I think, the most brilliant light in the Boston theater. So thank you, Kate, for all you've done for us. We have another alum tonight, and to introduce the poet, Robert Pinsky again.
When Chloe Martinez was a graduate student in the MFA program here, the depth and grace of her poetry made her a standout. There was no question about those two qualities. Since then, Chloe is published in many magazines. She's been nominated for a Pushcart Award, and continuing an interest that was already strong when she was here, she's completing her PhD in South Asian religion at the University of California, Santa Barbara, and she teaches at Haverford. The poetry nomination, the publication, the doctorate in South Asian studies all demonstrate the same qualities that one noticed when she was here and that you're about to experience this poet's depth and grace. Chloe Martinez.
Thank you so much, Robert. It's a great honor to be back here and a pleasure. I'm going to read a poem called A Hawk Comes to the Suburbs. A quick sweep of wings. I looked up from my book. A hawk balanced outside the window, talons curled lightly around the balcony rail. I wondered if it could see inside. The hawk moved one great foot up and down, unhurriedly, turned its large gleaming head left and right, so the feathers moved against one another like lovers' hands. How close could I get? The hook of the beak, one copper-colored eye, took me in. Then those wings opened, every dark feather fanned wide. Rising, silent, it flew straight off to the left, so I couldn't watch it go. Now I'm going to read 3 poems that were all written during my last trip to India for dissertation research. Spent a lot of that time with my husband looking for manuscripts and photographing them, so this poem is about that. Manuscript of a long-forgotten poet. For days, we may not speak more than a few words to anyone but each other. We leave the hotel in the cool morning and come back sweaty, drained of energy, to stand before a huge cage of parakeets, watching them quick step sideways along their long stick perches. Are they courting or fighting? When we wash our hands, we turn the water brown as a flooded field. We kneel together sometimes for hours over a low table as you turn the frail pages of a book 3 centuries old, and I try to catch each page and make it stay, sharpening the image on the camera's little screen until I can see each mark someone made in red or black ink, and where the margin wasn't ruled straight, or someone tried to cross a letter out and didn't quite. I adjust the lens, straighten the tripod legs. You hold the page extra still. We will have to turn off the ceiling fan so that even the air won't move. The afternoon will crawl along, sweltering. I cannot imagine a more tedious, more tender thing. In Delhi. Green parakeets. They are here, pecking among the crows. The tanned expats are running laps, dripping with sweat at 7 a.m. Old men practice laugh therapy among the trees. Middle-aged walkers try to follow the stern advice of their doctors. They swing their arms briskly, huffing along the paths, past gorgeous ruins of mosques, the tombs of former sultans. Their drivers wait outside the gates, leaning on the cars and smoking. We are here too, awake jet lag early and ready to do everything at once. Later it will be hot, and we will snap at each other, indecisive about lunch, dehydrated, but that is not now. Now the temperature is perfect. There are water lilies. Our grandmothers on the phone both said, "Go, love each other, enjoy." And we do. We identify a kingfisher, dogs, Americans, and where can we get a cup of coffee at this hour? We can't. This is not when you go out for coffee in Delhi. Everything is closed. But parakeets, air conditioning, love each other. Let us get fat on puri and paratha. Let us photograph everything and overpay for rickshaws. Let us rest in the afternoon, naked in a dim room, ceiling fan humming overhead, bright racket of motorbikes floating in from the street. This is the last poem I'll read. It's called Palace Gate. The handprints of the 16 settees are carved in the wall, colored with red powder because they were wives, and gold for the fire. No, that's not true. Red for auspiciousness, and gold for royalty. Red and gold for the colors brides wear. Red, the meat flung off the parapets in the golden dusk to feed the huge circling kites to prevent misfortune. Red, a ring I stole from a gift shop in high school. I still wear it, and on my other hand, one band in plain gold, another with 3 red rubies. Gold, the field of daffodils, where my mother and sister and I were chased out by barking dogs. Red, their collars. We thought it would be all right to pick them. Red, the Toyota hatchback that broke after so many years. Gold, the sedan that somebody gave us that smelled always like grandparents. Red, my blood on the train platform. Gold, the dirt on my knees, on my bleeding palms. Red, the telephone, but the shopkeeper had no phone book. I wept on the counter. A gold Ganesha looked on from his corner shrine. Red, the sandstone palace, even under whitewash. I never stole anything else. Thank you.
Well, Ha Jin, as you all know, is an internationally famed novelist. Each year when we do these readings, he has a new book. His last is Nanjing Requiem. What you may not know, but which 9 people in this room know for sure, is that he is also a very great teacher of writing. And I think some of that comes through when he reads to us, which he will do now. Ha Jin.
I'm going to read some paragraphs from the narrator's personal story. In fact, the biggest difficulty in writing this novel is that the protagonist is a real person, a missionary woman from Illinois, Minnie Vautrin. But since she was an actual person, and there were biographies written on her, so I couldn't invent a drama for her life. That was so. At the last resort, I came up with a fictional narrator. She has her own story, but she worked as an assistant in a refugee camp for the American missionary woman. But this woman, An Ling, she had her own story. Her family somehow was related to Japan. Her husband got a degree from a Japanese university. When the war broke out, her son was studying medicine in Japan, but later he married a Japanese woman and was forced to return to China to serve in the Imperial Army. So by definition, he is a traitor. There's no argument about that, because the Chinese national government made a definition of a traitor. As long as the enemy's force occupies our homeland, whoever works for it is a traitor. So by that definition, he is definitely a traitor. In fact, after the publication of this book, a lot of people were somehow disturbed by it, especially by this young man's fate, particularly some very patriotic young women, because they thought that this man was a very decent man, why he would die. And they couldn't accept that fact. A small common man was caught in the whirlwind of history. So, there couldn't be another way for him. By contrast, I think I should mention another true story as a backdrop. There was a famous Chinese poet, Guo Meruo, a distinguished scholar and also poet, who studied in Japan for many years and had a family there, married a Japanese woman and had 4 children with her. The moment the war broke out, he abandoned the family and returned to China to fight the Japanese force. And it became a legend. He was celebrated as a hero, national hero. But a few years ago, one of his son, his oldest son, Japanese son, was interviewed by a Chinese reporter. The reporter asked him, "What do you think? What does your family think of your father?" And he said, "To our family, he's a criminal." So I think that's important, different kind of fate. The man was killed by the Japanese but the Chinese guerrillas, but the family was in shame. They couldn't reveal the truth, and the mother suffered. I'm going to read a few paragraphs about the painful loss suffered by the mother. I think I should mention this. I didn't know how to write about this. Then I remember in Zebold, and W.H. Zebold's great novel, Emigrants, and there's the fourth narrative about Max Ferber. There was the Jewish family. The boy was sent to England to avoid the concentration camps, and the parents could not follow him, and instead the mother wrote a diary and sent the manuscript to him, and he was too afraid to read them. Later, many years later, a few decades later, he read the diary, and the diary there was no word about loss. It was only about happiness. So that gave me a kind of an idea about to describe the loss. For a week, I lay in bed. In my diary, I just mentioned Hao Wen's death as a crime committed by the Japanese, and that Yao Ping and I were sonless now. I was afraid that someone might read what I'd written, which was always a possibility. I would gather aloud, indulging in memories of the old days. I remembered that 20 years before, in the fall, we'd gone often to Purple Mountain to look for mushrooms. At that time, the grand mausoleum in honor of Sun Yat-sen wasn't there yet, as he was still alive. We'd bring along a small hamper of food, fruits, and bottles of drink, and would picnic at the lakeside or under the huge stone animals and the immense maples in the Royal Park. The weather always seemed to be gorgeous, and the sky blue and high, while warm breezes shook the grass and leaves from time to time. We'd also go to the Yangtze for boating. Yao Ping was so happy on those outings that he often played a bamboo flute while I sat at the stern of a rented dinghy, applying an oar noiselessly. Meanwhile, Hao Wen and Li Ya would dive and float in the shallows. The boy invented a swim style he called frog paddle, which combined the arm movement of the breaststroke with the kicking of the butterfly. He tried to teach Li Ya how to do it, but she couldn't synchronize her limbs that way. Joyful occasions like those felt as remote as if they had belonged to another life. I also recalled the times we'd gone to fly kites on the embankment. Yao Ping was good with his hands and made various types of large creatures, like a hawk, a multicolored butterfly, a phoenix, a centipede. People would enviously watch him flying them. Hao Wen was always excited by those trips. Once he came down with a raging fever for 2 days afterward, thanks to running in the summer's heat for hours. Now he was dead, and we had no idea where his body was. Even if he were alive, I suspected he could never be a happy man again. Had he not been a family man, he could have abandoned his wife by deserting the imperial army soon after he'd landed in China. He might have joined the resistance force and survived. People might even have respected him as a real man who put his country above his family, devoting himself to fighting our national enemy. But he'd been doomed by his nature as a good, faithful, average man. Thank you.
Well, Shu Fei has a new book every year. I've been reading this thing for the last 4 or 5 years here. The first thing I read was when Lieb Goldkorn, the hero, was 103 years old and put his head in a magic chef oven and was saved at the last minute to go back to his hometown in the Czech Republic. The second thing was when a little boy, he was studying with the great teacher of Brahms, teacher of Mahler, Julius Epstein, which is also the name of my uncle. The third was when Lieb was a menage à six, in bed with 3 women, a gentleman, and a cat. That was the high point, I think. Last year was Lieb, a series of letters back and forth with his latest flame, Renee Fleming. And now the end. Lieb put his head in the oven in 2004, I think, and then was saved. Here is the pen. These are 3 tiny little chapters at the end. The penultimate chapter is called Obituary. The headline is Lieb Goldkorn, 103, West Side Character, by Susan Dominus, October 24th, 2005. I guess he put his head in the oven around October 21st, 2005. Mr. Lieb Goldkorn, a familiar figure on the Upper West Side, died some 2 weeks ago, though his body was discovered only last Friday in his apartment on West 80th Street. The apparent cause was suicide, since he was found with his head thrust inside his kitchen oven. Mr. Goldkorn was born in 1901 in the Austro-Hungarian town of Iglau, now Jihlava, in the Czech Republic. His father, Gaston Goldkorn, was a well-known grower of hops. Mr. Goldkorn's nature was musical. To all who would listen, he claimed to be a graduate of the esteemed Academy für Musik, Philosophie und Darstellende Kunst, and a former student of Julius J. Epstein, the instructor of Mahler and friend of Brahms. Mr. Goldkorn was a bit of a jack of all trades on the orchestral scene, playing glockenspiel at the Vienna State Opera, the piano at the Steinway restaurant, now defunct, on Rivington Street, and flute during a brief stint with the NBC Symphony under Arturo Toscanini. He often boasted that his artistry could be heard during that orchestra's recording of Wolf Ferrari's Il Segreto di Susanna, though no copies of that disc have been found. He was best known, perhaps, for 2 things: his street concerts on musical glasses. Old-timers fondly recall his rendition of the Bells of St. Mary's, and the highly fanciful accounts of his life in 2 autobiographical, though little-read novels, Goldkorn Tales and Ice, Fire, Water, a Lieb Goldkorn Cocktail. Mr. Goldkorn came to America in 1938, narrowly escaping the fate of his family, all of whom died in Auschwitz. It seemed for a time he worked for a time in Hollywood as a composer for films. He enjoyed regaling passers-by with tales of his intrigues with some of the most glamorous stars of that era, including Sonia Henney, Carmen Miranda, and Esther Williams. "Who?" said Miss Williams when contacted by a reporter at her home in Beverly Hills. With his passing, we can close the book on a colorful part of musical Vienna that no longer exists, and on a familiar figure on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, which is also changing into something new. Mr. Goldkorn leaves no relations. He was married to the former Clara Litwack and had a daughter, Martha, who is thought to have died in childbirth. A private service will be held at the cemetery of Hakila Hill. The penultimate chapter is called Paradiso, and it's Lieb Goldkorn talking to us and laughing. Ha, 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 and they claim to be the newspaper of record. Not a word about Gustav Mahler, no mention of the favorable reviews of my books by you-know-who. It's Michiko Kakutani, his favorite. What about Emperor Franz Joseph and my first prize flute? Most surprising of all, not a single line dedicated to the events at the Metropolitan Opera or my world premiere. Did they think it was all a fantasia? Should I write a letter of protest to the editors? But how to mail it to their offices? We have here no stamps mit volleyball athletes. I have also discovered what so many others have before me, that wall between us and those we love. Miss Esther and the half-Finn, the Fleming. We may shout. We pound with what are now metaphorical fists. We might even gather our thoughts and attempt to penetrate our darling's dreams. There is no availing. What does it matter? Let those below live their lives and think what they think. All here is sympathisch. True, it is not the existence that people imagine. No milk and no honey, no grapes. Nor do we meet the great or the near great. Forget about dalliances. Forget about having with B. Spinoza or Emil Waldteufel a tete-a-tete. Though once at a distance, off on a cloud of their own, I believe I glimpsed Bloch, Brooke, and Blanter, the three great musical bees. Now and then there drifts toward me the sound of laughter, a thumping, and a beer hall melody. Can there be non-Jews on the premises? Humans, men and women, children and babes, if only you knew. What we are allowed is the one person most precious to us, the one material object that has the most meaning, and even one little wee pet, hence Hymena. Meow? Oh, I do not know, my kitten. There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than Mr. Goldcorns, if you please. Ah, that is the former Miss Litvak. She wishes me to assist with her fingernails. Also, should fortune smile, the nails of her toes. Coming, coming, you Turkish delight. Do you see her there, with legs crossed, en dishabille? Make it snappy. Look, look again, that flash of light. Gott in Himmel, a garter try. Thus, my dears, heavenly bliss. To pass the time, we may look down on the blue and white earth, the to and fro of all its busy people. Then angels float by with their songs, and we hear the music of the spheres. Are you going, Mr. Goldcorn, to take all day? Coming, you gummy bear, you little sweetmeat. For the nonce, I shall blow on the nails of this lovely, to help dry the paint. Later, at my repose, I shall blow over the embouchure of my Rudel on Rose flute. What shall it be today? Perhaps Kirkel number 299, the concerto for harp and flute. And now in huge print, twat, twap, twaddle-wap. This is for amusement, a game we play. First I make the musical notes, then the heavenly hosts cover with their wingtips their ears. Yoo-hoo, I'm waiting, yoo-hoo, my fingers are wet. Coming, Miss Litvak, coming, my Clara. Ach, how pretty you are, what a beauty. Here is Lieb Goldkorn, your husband, with all privileges. So give me your hand, there. Is that how you like it? And there, is it good? I am on my knees before you. A paroxysm? Shh, shh, strictly forbidden. But oh, my Liebchen, you have instead the whole of my heart. And the last chapter is simply called Correction. An obituary that appeared in some Monday's editions misstated the name of its subject. It is not Lieb Goldkorn, but Lieb Goldkorns. The Times very much regrets the error. Thank you. Louise Glick, who's on our poetry faculty, is off at Stanford this year, at this minute, listening to the Republican debate, probably. And she has been replaced for us, we're very happy to say, by Dan Chazen. He is the not only a wonderful poet himself, the poetry critic of The New Yorker. He writes often long and wonderful essays, including one very recently on Robert Pinsky for the New York Review of Books. He teaches at Wellesley. We're very glad he's also teaching for us. Dan Chazen.
Thank you. I'm glad to. My poem takes about 8.5 minutes, so I got to get going. It doesn't require any explanation, alas. Bicentennial. Moving as a mind moves across a math problem, or an eye across a lover's body, or a dragonfly across the sky, or history through wars and bodies, or a film from frame to frame, or the moods, strangers to each other, or a ferry across the lake all day. Move with me now, for I need company. I have this wish to get caught up in something precisely unlike a poem, unlike writing for its straightforwardness, its power that is not the power of half-secrecy, but is instead something enormous and potentially dangerous. And this is all I am afraid will move my mind 1 inch off the small white T where it sits and waits. My mind sits on its small white T and waits for something like what others experience when they avert a tragedy, but barely. And all of life is refocused in that moment. Even the parts they hated yesterday, or worse than hated, felt merely a blank where emotion would be, a blank where meaning would be, if only they could find the exact site in Paris by the Seine where the princess died, and see the spot, and remember the night she died, late in New York, in the era when my friends and I did copious amounts of ecstasy at parties, and when it hit you, you simply shone. Now everyone in that room was beautiful, and in the mirror, your own face was a gift for which you owed even total strangers thanks. This was what led you in the first place to make the call, pool the money, and meet the guy in an alley off West 4th Street, returning to the bar or party with a handful of banana-colored pills, heads back and away we go. Though that night, none of us expected to go exactly where we were going that night. I remember later in the Standards Bar, the weeping men who, by some accident of history and their bodies, it happened, cared for her the way you would a friend. And one man requested "Lady Be Good" at the bar, and the sad, slow song rang through the bar until I did feel, as the song kept telling me I did, like a lonesome babe in the woods, adrift upon some serotonin raft in a wide, slow stream of time, late in the night of my childhood, before I had done anything yet I would regret. Now it was 1976, and my body in my bed felt for the first time what being part of a country feels like, a memory of flags and songs and foods I'd never had before, for it was the country's birthday. The country was having its birthday party in a park by the lake. What being part of a country felt like in the park, with the entire breakwater full of boats, with ferry boats blaring music offshore, everyone acting as though it made them happy to be part of the country. Even those, I later learned, were hippies, including my aunts and uncles, whose code seemed to include towards children kindness. What it felt like being part of a country was to be quite specifically targeted for love, as though a letter from a stranger had arrived, delivering the best, the most unexpected news. A neighbor put me up on his shoulders so I could see better the band concert. War veterans playing French horn. The neighbor who moved to Boston and became a caterer before he moved back home into his bedroom where his parents cared for him the year he died. He'd been my babysitter, the only boy who ever cared for me, and I remember his patience in watching me play, for he too seemed to have kindness as part of his code. And when he died, the neighbors gathered in the small front yard and planted a lilac, which whenever I visit home, I go and see. Did you know next door to our house there used to be a small stained glass chapel attached to a dormitory where the masses had a distinct folk flair, and kindness radiated from the mousy students, almost as though it was part of their code. The girls from Rutland or St. Johnsbury, or far away like Danbury, Connecticut, girls that now would be approaching 60, who sometimes cared for me upstairs in their tidy dorm rooms with crucifixes on the corkboard, coffee mugs, and toys they'd brought with them from home, which now they gave to me so I could play. And sometimes nuns in the convent, whose code, it appeared, included kindness, showed me the few things they brought from home to their small cell-like rooms. One, a young nun, was a coin collector, and she showed me a Standing Liberty quarter engraved with the first initial of a boy she'd dated and who'd taken her to the fair. I had the distinct impression she still loved him, the way that whole afternoon led up to her getting the quarter from the drawer and putting it on the TV tray next to her bed, next to the rosary, and watched me react when she said the word boy. What does R stand for, sister? Richard, she said. And I wondered, since I was a coin collector too and knew the value of every coin, how much less it now was worth engraved. Now she puts the coin into the drawer, and we move inside my mind to the Paris skyline, where an enormous Ferris wheel appears, lit by the light it generates, a wheel that spins and spins nowhere, all night, whether we watch it or not, and children having their childhoods right now, this late in time, as though they had to stand in line just to be born, get on and ride. And from the top, they see the sliver of history fate is allowing them to see before they disembark and scatter, some to joy, some to misery, and whether they live for 100 years or die, as some have, tomorrow, this is the childhood these children are having, which is something I remind my own children all the time. I say, you are having your childhood now. And they say, yes, Daddy. And I say, jokingly, but not really, how do you feel it is going? And they light up and they say, great, which is just what I would have said as a kid if someone, though who would it have been, had asked me this very same question. You are having your childhood now. Today you went to the bicentennial. Everyone in the world was there, and you were there. How does that feel? That's when I say, brightening, great, and wait until later, much later in life, as they must wait for the real answer. I am having my childhood now. That's me. I am at a party by the lake. The boats jostle for space inside the breakwater. A neighbor lifts me up to see the band concert. The French horns blare. The men wear their war uniforms. The hippies are riding history. The ferries are playing blues for the private parties. The mountains across the water, that's New York. I'm having my childhood right now in this country in 1976. That's me near the cannons that point to the Adirondacks. That's me clapping when the parade wends by. I am in a park by the lake. This is the exact moment in time when I exist as a 5-year-old in this country, and everyone is there at the bicentennial. There's the mayor and the Chamber of Commerce, and there's the National Guard and the Rotarians. And there's my daddy, though he never knew me, my handsome daddy, happy, dancing the day away, my tall, handsome daddy and his brand new family, just starting out in life, elated at the thought they'd made it this far, to this enormous party the country threw for itself. because who else would 1 billion years ago today on its birthday? Thank you.
We'll see you next year. Thank you so much for coming, and go Cubs.